And now, questions and answers. You had a question?
I figured it out.
Okay. Yes.
Well, this business about the banks taking so long to respond. When they do respond, then how much time do they allow for you to do whatever you want to do, the inspections, or you say you should be pre-approved? So how fast does the buyer have to respond then?
Well, there's a contract. Basically, the contract will be sent for bank approval, essentially. So the contract will normally say, normally it's a normal contract, essentially. So like once you say, okay, once I get bank approval, I'll need 14 days to complete my investigations of the property and proceed to purchase the house, something like that. Yes?
You mentioned with the short sale to be patient. What are some ways if you have a good property and you know it's worth a little less than the bank wants or that's owed on it, to lock it up? If you were to get appraisals or not appraisals of the particular property, or I'm sorry, comps, that's the term I was looking for, of other properties in that neighborhood, how do you get them to kind of get a realistic, regardless of what the number is that they want that?
The question is, how do you get the bank to come up with a realistic appraised value of the property if the bank thinks maybe it's worth more than it actually is? That is a very good question. Basically, the big way the bank figures out how much a property is worth is they'll send out a realtor to do what's called a BPO, or a broker price opinion. A lot of the times during a short sale, they'll actually have it be an interior BPO where the agent will make an appointment to come inside the house and preview it. Make sure that you are there to meet the agent, or that your realtor is there to meet the agent and to show him every single defect, every single problem there is with the property, every reason why it's worth less than the other comps that he might otherwise find, and then supply him with the comps. And then also supply him with market data. Say, look, those comps are 4 months old. The market's gone down 3% since those properties sold, for example.
So if you come with an accurate market analysis and you've got the documentation to prove the bank most likely will be reasonable, because they're just going to lose more money as it goes.
The bank may look at it, whatever documentation you send to them regarding your own valuation of the property, but they're mostly going to be looking at their BPO they do. So it's very important to go there and meet the person who does the valuation of the house and to point out why it's worth very little. And you might even just tell them, hey, look, the contract price is this, you know, I need this to be the contract price. Now he shouldn't, you know, give that valuation if it's not actually worth that price, but I would do it if I was buying a house. I would go out there and I would tell them, look, I'm in contract at this, and here's why I'm only offering this much for the house. And you know, if it's justifiable, then he may put that in his report, and that will be very helpful for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
We've seen several foreclosed properties in the Monterey County area, and they all seem to be a great deal with a good amount of equity, but they all have those blemishes.
Right.
And some of them are kind of expensive blemishes.
Right.
So, you know, even though they're worth it, you know, it's valued at $300, it sells for $250 plus 30 grand in work. Where do you get the extra 30 grand?
You can get like a fix-up loan. They do have those fix-up loans. I would talk to a lender about seeing if you can get a fix-up loan. Yeah, it's possible. There is money out there for that. It can happen. That's a good question, though. If you have a house that really has stuff that's more than cosmetic, like the roof or the foundation, you might want to stay away from those properties, because those fix-up loans, they are harder to get, and they do cost more money. The interest rate is higher. So if it has some problem that's more than just a blemish, you should think a lot about going ahead with that purchase, unless you have the money or can secure it. Yes?
Sam, I was interested in your comment over here about public auctions, and usually they go for 2 to 3 times more than the opening bid. You think that's going to continue?
Yes, I will, because the opening bids are so low. So I mean, they make the bids so low to get a frenzy going, is what they do, and so they get a frenzy, and that's the whole strategy basically behind an auction. So the opening bid prices might go down, but I think that, I mean, there really is a market price for these properties, and people will pay close to these market price. You know, it's an auction, so somebody at some point will say, yeah, I'll pay that much for that property. So I think that will continue, but if prices drop, it will be because the overall market is dropping. I don't think that auction prices will drop faster than the regular market will drop.
Do you think there are going to be more foreclosure properties on the market 6 months from now, or a year from now, as opposed to now?
That's an excellent question. My own suspicion is that, and from what I've read, is that banks are actually not foreclosing as quickly as they could because the market is already flooded. So I think that, and I don't have nothing to back this up other than what I've just read on the internet, basically, but that lenders are not foreclosing as quickly as they could because there's already so much in the channel. So I think that they're sort of regulating, and I don't know that there will be many more because that will drive down prices. So I think that they will just keep at a steady pace for the next little while, 12 to 18 to 24 months maybe, but less than 24 months I think, maybe 12 to 18, somewhere in that time frame. Yes, back there?
When you were talking about bank-owned properties, when the lender takes it back, and that's usually sounded like the best time, or the best time to buy the foreclosure, how do we find those? Do you go to a bank and, I mean, this is a stupid question, do you go to a bank and ask them, or how do we find them? And is it worth it to pay those costs for those internet companies that say, you know, join for a monthly fee and you'll see the foreclosures in your area? Or?
That's an excellent question. There were two questions. First question is, where do you find these bank-owned properties to buy? And the second question was, is it worth it to go and like join like a Realty Track or one of these companies that gives you the inside information on when foreclosures are going to happen? The bank-owned properties are all or should all be advertised on the MLS. So you find them right when you go to MLSlistings.com or whatever. A lot of times they won't say that they are bank-owned or foreclosures, but they won't say they're short sales either, typically. But you can kind of tell because they're much cheaper than everything else. And so you can ask a realtor, hey, is this bank-owned? Is this a foreclosure? You can call the listing agent and say, what's the story on there? But basically, all those houses that look really cheap on the MLS, mostly they are short sales and foreclosures.
Did I miss what MLS is?
Multiple listing service.
Okay.
So that's where that's like the database of all the properties that are for sale. So if you want to go look on the internet, like on Realtor.com, essentially, Realtor.com is like a copy of our local Santa Cruz MLS. The other question was, is it worth it to go and pay Realty Track or these other companies to get money, to get information on the foreclosures that are coming? And if you're a professional investor and then you have the time to go and track down these deals and like pursue the owners and buy them basically yourself direct from the owner and negotiate with the bank, if you have that kind of time and the skill and the personality type that can actually go ahead and do that, then yes. I think those are mostly used beyond the 30-day free trial period by professional investors or perhaps other realtors, people in the industry mostly. So I don't think that you really have to do that. As a retail consumer, I think that the bargains are there in the public domain, the MLS. I think there's plenty of opportunities there because you probably have a job already and you don't necessarily have an extra 4 hours a day to devote to tracking down these bargains to make that extra 3 or 4% beyond. That's where the investor is going to make his money. That's his cushion maybe, or maybe more depending on how good of an investor he is.
The real estate agent can see whether it's real estate owned when they look at the property. They have a little extra information. And we are looking to buy a house regardless, so we were going to look at houses with an agent, and we just told him prioritize the ones that you see are real estate. So we'd save some time trying to deduct ourselves and make all those phone calls, and it's his job. So if you're already looking to buy a house, just tell him, ask him to do his job, and tell him you're looking for those. It saved us a lot of time.
Yes, sir. Yes.
If you do get one of these good deals, then are your taxes going to be due on the appraisal price? And then how do you deal with that or prepare for that or figure it in and make sure you're still going to be able to afford this purchase?
The question is if you do buy a property that's below the appraisal price, what will your taxes be based on? Your taxes will be based on the price that you paid for it, purchase price, so which is approximately 1.1% typically in this area per year, which can't go up more than 1% in a year. So
if you had a crystal ball and you were looking at that peak, do you think the bottom, the apex, would be when we know when our president's going to leave?
Actually, I think that maybe the fall. Actually, I'm personally like, yeah, I think the fall, but I don't know why I think that. It's just like,
You know how trends go. If everybody starts
right, that's right.
There.
Have you read that book, Blink? That Blink it's a good book, Blink. It's basically about like knowing things or intuiting things based on your experience. So my Blink instinct tells me that the fall, but I could be completely mistaken. But yeah, I think the fall. But I think now is a good time to buy, really, because I mean there's plenty of deals out there, and the financing is great, the selection is great. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities to be made today, and that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we do know today that there's definitely bargains to be had.
Well, was there going to be another reset in April?
ARM reset?
Yeah.
ARMs are resetting all the time because it's like,
A whole bunch will be reset in April.
one thing first. The ARMs reset all the time. So like everybody buys their loan and then they reset 3 years after the day or 5 years after the day. So ARMs are constantly resetting. So I do think that there will be more of these bailout programs that may help some people whose ARMs resetting. And that will be wonderful for them. The problem I think that we have really, to be truthful, is that many people bought these houses that are way, way more than they're worth today. They don't care if their ARM resets or not. They're paying like, okay, they go around from $4,000 a month to $3,000 a month, but they're still paying on a house that's worth $300,000 less than they paid for it, and it will be 5 years or 8 years before they reach that level again. And they're just like, you know what? I could rent this same house for $1,800. I'm just going to go rent the same house and let them foreclose on me. I think that there's so much of that going on right now. People are just walking away from their houses, going like, I'm so far underwater. No matter what happens with my payments, I'm just throwing good money after bad, essentially, I think is what many people are thinking. So that's what I think. And you had a question?
Oh, just about whether there'll be another
Fed rate cut?
Yeah.
There probably will be another Fed rate cut. It doesn't seem to be affecting interest rates that much, though. So yeah, maybe, probably so.
Well, if there's the bank, it says lender owned, and they say that they want 300,000 equity in it, well, should you offer them 10% less, or
That's a very good question.
a house that's 2 years old or something?
That's a very good question. The question is, so the bank has its price. Can you lowball the bank? Can you offer them much less than what they're asking? Yes, you certainly can offer them much less than what they're asking. They probably won't take it. Basically, the bank, when they price their property, they have like 3 opinions of value. They have like 2 realtors come out and do BPOs, broker price opinions, and they'll have an appraiser come out and give an appraisal. And with those 3 opinions of value, essentially, they'll come up with a price that they think is a price that will sell quickly. So because professional investors will come and they'll like lowball these properties all the time, and the bank's like, well, if I wait for a regular person to come along and buy the house,
Okay.
I'll get the price because it's already very cheap compared to every other house out there. So they will typically just wait. They will almost always, in all cases, counter you back. So like if you offer 10% less, they'll counter you back to 3% less or something like that. But they will once in a while take a lowball offer if they're about to lower the price anyway. So basically, you can look at, like, when was the last time they did a major price reduction? Was it more than 45 days ago? Well, if it has been more than 45 days, and again, with every lender it's different, it might be 60 or 90, depending on who the lender is and what their strategy is for marketing. They might take a lowball offer at that point. Yes?
I saw an article on the front page of the Sentinel a couple of weeks back or so, and had 4 houses.
Right.
And one of them was a 2-bedroom on Freedom Boulevard.
Right.
You know, none of Freedom Boulevard is all that bad.
Right.
And it was like $225.
Right.
I was wondering how something that extreme could get through.
Because that house was red tagged, it had a mold problem, and the septic system had failed. So that's why that one was cheap. But still, but still, that's a good deal, though. I think that's a good deal because the septic system's like what, 7 or 10 grand, something like that, and then mold remediation's not that much, right? So it's just that it probably had to be bought for cash. And so if it has to be bought for cash, then that lowers the price a good bit right there, because no lender will loan in a house without a working septic system if they know about it. So.
When you said a clear title, you were not talking about red tags, I assume.
Right. Okay. So I'm in escrow on a house right now where the city of Watsonville actually recorded a red tag against the title of the property,
Yes.
and so the lender won't fund on it until the red tag is removed. So normally you won't. Normally, building code violation doesn't actually make it to title for like a while, like 6 months. So it's your responsibility or your agent. Actually, ultimately, it's your responsibility, but you should have your realtor go down to the county or the city and talk to the building department, planning and zoning, and make sure there's no code violations on it that haven't yet been recorded against the title.
But if there is a red tag, a lender's not going to, it's a cash sale. It's not going to-
Right, right. And in that case, then the bank will typically, in fact, the bank will have to do the work that's required to remedy the red tag. They have no choice. Or they can sell it for cash to somebody. They could find somebody to buy it for cash. And if you buy it for cash, you can buy a house that's red tagged for cash. Yeah.
And I'm assuming these banks will not set up a loan to a new seller that's in foreclosure.
Actually, sometimes they will.
Okay.
Sometimes they will, once in a while. they will. It's actually very hard for you to go get another mortgage loan after you just got foreclosed on. So,
Actually, I didn't ask the question well. I'm saying if you came to buy a house that is in foreclosure, could you negotiate with that lender to?
yes, so, like Countrywide, for example, a lot of the lenders like Countrywide will require that you be pre-approved through Countrywide. They can't require that you get the loan through Countrywide, but they can require that you be pre-approved through Countrywide. And at that point, it's very easy to fall into the sway of the Countrywide loan rep and actually get the loan through Countrywide. A lot of lenders will want you to be pre-approved through their bank, IndyMac, Countrywide. A lot of these people do want you to be pre-approved, but they don't require that you get the loan from them. But like Countrywide, again, they will pay for your appraisal and credit report, and that's like $500 off your closing costs. So, oh, but I should say, many times the lenders will give you closing cost credit. So they will pay $10,000, $15,000 of your closing costs for you. That's very common.
This is very good.
Any other, oh, yes, you have a question?
My son has a condo in a building on River Street, which is braced up because it was going to be red tack, but the homeowners association braced it up, but they apparently was an embezzlement with the company that was managing.
Uh-huh.
So now all the condo owners have to come up with, I don't know how many thousands
Right.
to fix up the building. Could you sell a condo without revealing that?
Well, you could. It would be, if you knew about it, which you probably do if you're the owner, that would be illegal. Yeah, that would be a violation of the law because as a seller, you're required to disclose all the material facts you know about the property. And that is what I would consider to be a material fact because it affects the value of the property. So, yeah, if you didn't disclose that and you bought it, you have good cause for suing. Although probably you as the buyer, hopefully you would have discovered that through your own investigation period. But yes, the seller is required to disclose that information to you.
There's like 4 units for sale there and nobody wants them even though they've been priced really low because of this.
Yeah, that's a nasty situation for sure. Yeah. Yes?
I may have missed this, but are there some loan companies that are better, that are more willing to give you loans for foreclosures? I mean, does it matter if you're getting a loan, whether it is for a foreclosure or just a regular purchase?
Yeah, the question is, are there some lenders that are more likely to give you a loan for a foreclosure than other lenders? The answer is they're all equally willing to give you a loan on a foreclosure. Once, yeah, if it's short sale or the bank already owns it, it's basically a normal transaction. So there's no problem getting a loan on a foreclosure or a short sale. It's very easy. But again, the trustee sale where you buy the courthouse steps, that has to be in cash. But if you buy other points of the foreclosure cycle, you can use the regular bank financing. Yeah.
Well, if you're buying in a big development where there's a lot of foreclosures, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because you're going to be the only one there for a while, maybe.
Well, like I would point to
people on the same street or something.
I would point to Las Brisas down there in Watsonville and Seaview Ranch. Lovely homes, new, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 2,500 square feet. Tons of foreclosures there. People bought them at $900,000. Now they're going around $500,000. A lot of people don't seem to care too much because they're going like, wow, I'm getting this 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 4-year-old house for $500,000. That's fine. So I don't think there's a big problem with it. If you can afford the payments and you're just happy.
Where is that?
It's at behind Target in Watsonville. Those houses are basically going for $5, sometimes less, sometimes $475, sometimes $5.25, somewhere in that range. I mean, if you can make the payments on that, if the loans are pretty cheap these days, it's not that much more than renting, and with your tax deduction, it may be almost about the same. Right. So if you're comfortable with it, and you plan to hold on to it for a while, maybe they will drop another $30,000 in the next year. I don't know, but maybe within 3 or 5 years they'll be back up to 6 or 7. You know, who knows? So probably they will, because as we saw from that little movie I showed you, inevitably the prices will go up. So
I was thinking about the life of the area, since it's 500 homes, and maybe only 2 of them have been bought under foreclosure.
Oh, they all get sold. No, it's not. This is not Stockton, California, where you have like huge, massive tracts full of brand new houses. We don't really have that in Santa Cruz. There are a few tracts full of brand new houses, and they are selling. Those houses are selling because they're cheap and they're nice houses. So yeah, I mean, I would, if I saw a place where prices were continuing to drop like 30 and 40% a year, you might want to hold off and wait. Watsonville did drop 40% in a year. So I don't really think it's going to drop another 40% because prices now in Watsonville, for example, are down to the year 2000 levels essentially. And I don't see them dropping much more than that. Here in Santa Cruz, we're down to about 2005 levels and maybe dropping a little bit below that now down to 2004 perhaps. But I think probably that'll be about it for Santa Cruz. I don't think they'll drop any Capitola and SoCal and La Selva. I don't think they'll drop any below 2004. And I think right now they're around 2005-ish, early part of 2005.
Can I ask a follow-up on this question?
Sure.
If I may. Let's say those homes that the ones you mentioned behind Target, oh, I'm sorry, I just lost.
Las Brisas, Seaview Ranch.
Yeah, I just lost my train.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll come back.
Okay. Yes?
Yeah, so if somebody is interested in a property, how do they know when the bank is going to send an agent to appraise it? So that they can be there?
If it's a short sale, then the bank will usually want to go inside the house, and so they'll make an appointment with the owner of the house or the real estate agent who is listing the house.
But how does it, so then a person that isn't in a transaction wouldn't know about it?
Well, if you're buying the house,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
if you're buying the house, right, then you tell the realtor who's selling the house, listen, I want to know
Okay.
when the
You tell them, but
you tell
otherwise
me.
there's no way to know.
Right. The bank wouldn't contact the buyer, the bank contacts the seller.
Okay.
But you have to be in contact with the seller to say,
Okay.
hey, when this happens, let me know, I want to be there.
Okay.
Or if I can't be there, I want you to tell this. And that's why actually a lot of the success with a short sale is on the listing agent, not the buyer's agent, because the listing agent really has much more contact with the bank. As the buyer, you have no authorization to talk to the bank. They won't talk to you. They talk to the seller and the seller's agent only. So a lot of the key for success is working with selling a listing agent who really knows what he's doing, or she knows what she's doing. We're out of time here. We're way over time actually. I'm sorry.
One more, that was it.
I'm sorry. There was one more question, or yes?
In terms of short sales and foreclosures, how willing are the banks to cover closing costs?
Short sales, not so much. They will sometimes cover closing costs if it's within their formula. Foreclosures, REOs, they will very frequently cover closing costs. Yes. Okay. One last question. Any one last question?
That house situation was 4 years old. Does the developer, what is it called? For 10 years, they have to give you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would assume that it does. I don't actually know for a fact, but I would assume that it does. Good question for a real estate lawyer, but yeah, I think that it would. I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because if you sold it to somebody else, it would, right?
Basically, does the, go ahead.
The question was when you buy a brand new house, there's like a warranty on it for a period of time. Is that transferred to through the foreclosure to the subsequent buyer? I think it does. I don't know for a fact, and yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer really. I think so. I have a website. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.